There's no way in the world, with today's idea of security, that a fellow like Jack Ruby should be in the place where the accused assassin is. And he has his gun with him that night. We know it because there's a picture of Jack taken from the back. You can see the bulge in the back of his jacket.
Around midnight, suspect Lee Harvey Oswald was led out of room 317 to the basement for a press conference. Jack was standing in the hallway a few feet away, a loaded .38 in his pocket. Ruby followed the crowd of reporters into the assembly room in the basement. Standing on a table in the back, he was one of several people who corrected District Attorney Henry Wade when the DA gave the wrong name for Oswald's Fair Play for Cuba committee. On Saturday, Jack was spotted at the police station again.
This investigation has been carried on jointly by the F.B.I., the Secret Service, the Rangers, and the Dallas Police Department. Captain Fritz has been in charge.
He knows, I think, when Oswald is being moved because the cops told him Jack Ruby stalked Lee Harvey Oswald.
At 11:20 a.m., television cameras are rolling as the elevator door opens and Oswald emerges, handcuffed to a detective.
Here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters, detectives have their guns drawn. He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's a man with a gun. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. Oswald has been shot. We have arrested the man. The man will be charged with murder.
Who is he?
The suspect's name is Jack Rubenstein, I believe. He goes by the name of Jack Ruby.
In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, Jack gave a handful of different reasons for pulling the trigger.
He's told Patrick Dean, a Dallas police sergeant, that he had seen Oswald in the police station on Friday night, saw Oswald smirking, decided at that point that he was going to kill Lee Harvey Oswald.
Jack told other interrogators that afternoon he was so moved by the plight of Jackie Kennedy and her fatherless children, he took justice into his own hands. Soon after, Jack gave a third explanation. He wanted to prove that Jews had guts.
6 days after Ruby arrives at the Dallas County Jail, he receives one of his first visitors, Joseph Campisi, the number 2 man in the Dallas mob.
Somebody has to go in and comfort him, and that's exactly what Campisi did. He has got to keep Ruby on board. Ruby's volatile. He's succeeded in doing what he's doing. He's got to go talk to him. Jack, you're our friend. We're with you. The local cops in Dallas at this time are corrupt. They're being paid off. And so when he is in the local jail, he is vulnerable to being taken out himself.
Ruby will hint that he has secrets about the assassination that he won't or can't divulge. June 1964, more than 6 months after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Members of the Warren Commission, including Supreme Court Chief Justice Earl Warren and then Congressman Gerald Ford, traveled to the Dallas County Jail to question Jack Ruby.
All through the interview, he says, "Get me out of here. Take me to Washington. I'll tell you what happened."
Earl Warren said, "If you believe your life is in danger in talking to us, then I would advise you don't tell us anything." This is the chief investigator for America talking to probably the single most important witness in the case. Don't talk to us.
In the end, the commission decides not to take Ruby to Washington. More than a year later, in September of 1965, after the Warren Commission has announced its findings, Ruby gives a press conference. In it, he delivers a cryptic message.
Everything pertaining to what's happening has never come to the surface. The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives. The people that had so much to gain and had such an ulterior motive for putting me in a position I'm in will never let the true facts come above board to the world.
Now these people are in very high positions, Jack?
Yes.
In 1966, nearly 3 years after Oswald's murder, An appeals court overturns Ruby's first-degree murder conviction on a technicality. As soon as he gets a new trial venue, Ruby hopes to plead guilty to the lesser charge of murder without malice and walk out of jail with time served. 3 weeks later, Jack Ruby dies.
Doctors discovered he was suffering with terminal cancer of the liver, lungs, and brain.
We were working on projects that might have to do with eventually competing with Russia on the matter of using cancer as a bioweapon.
In 1979, the House Select Committee on Assassinations re-examines the evidence and concludes that Kennedy was most likely the victim of a conspiracy. The committee report suggests that Ruby was ordered to kill Lee Harvey Oswald to keep Oswald from talking. The committee releases its report on January 3rd, 1979. It states that there is a, quote, high probability that a second gunman fired a shot from the infamous grassy knoll. Their conclusion? Oswald most likely did not act alone. Therefore, Kennedy was probably the victim of a conspiracy.
The report said, yes, there was a conspiracy. There were at least 2 people firing at President Kennedy. Much of the evidence leading toward involvement of government investigative agencies, perhaps in the actual murder, perhaps just in the cover-up, were all pretty much glossed over. During the House Assassinations Committee hearings, the FBI and CIA admitted that they had withheld evidence, that they had obstructed justice.
I got no stake in this. I say this is a way a reasonable person has come out after spending a substantial time, 2 years of my life and $5 million of your money, trying to figure out what happened and listening to things thereafter. This is the most plausible explanation. It's not the one I went in with. I went in thinking they didn't do it. And I found myself being persuaded by the evidence to the contrary.
But even Blakey's critics are intrigued by startling new information released in 2001 that may link New Orleans mob boss Carlos Marcello, Lee Harvey Oswald, and the CIA.
The agency has never cooperated in the investigation of the president's death.
August 1963. 40-year-old George Joannides is a CIA operative in Miami. On orders from the agency, he is secretly financing and guiding a violent commando squad of anti-Castro Cuban refugees called the Cuban Student Directorate and known by their Spanish acronym, the DRE.
There are some significant people who played roles with the anti-Castro Cubans. Carlos Marcello financed anti-Castro Cuban groups.
The final element in this complex matrix of associations is none other than Lee Harvey Oswald. On August 5th, 1963, Oswald makes an attempt to infiltrate the DRE, a move that 4 days later results in a public confrontation with DRE members. This intriguing incident connects Oswald, the anti-Castro Commando Squad, and the CIA. The House Committee was familiar with the incident, but it never knew about the CIA's role in this tangled web of associations, for the simple reason that the CIA never told the committee about it.
Our investigators went over there. They were looking for conspiracy, and they were young and obnoxious, and they pressed. And I thought, when the agency complained to me, that they were too aggressive.
The CIA then suggested a central contact person for the House Committee. It was none other than George Joannides.
I would have wanted to know, when Oswald infiltrated this group, how did the group report up to Joannides? What did Joannides do or say about it? Was he in a position to have edited what got to us? Yes.
Once the committee set up its operation, it began to investigate a number of CIA personnel. One of the CIA agents under suspicion was a counterintelligence specialist named William Harvey.
Could you tell this committee who the individuals were involving mafia chieftains or organized crime figures?
As far as I'm aware, on that particular situation, it was William K. Harvey who was in touch with John Roselli, and it was Harvey and Roselli who were attempting to find, if I understood it correctly, some channel from Florida into Havana.